Hey there, welcome. You know that package you just ordered? Yeah, there's a pretty good chance a robot had its hands all over it. Today, we're diving deep into the massive AI and automation revolution that's totally transforming warehouses as we speak. This is a huge story, touching everything from the coolest new tech to how it's changing the world. So let's jump right in.
So, to really get a grip on what's going on, you've got to think of these technologies, AI, machine learning, and automation, like a superhero team. Seriously, they are the Avengers of logistics. Each one has its own crazy superpower, right? But when they team up, that's when the magic happens. They're making our supply chains faster, smarter, and more powerful than we ever thought possible.
All right, so before we see this team in action, let's do a quick roll call. We got to get to know the key players, starting with the brains of the whole operation. That's AI, machine learning, and deep learning.
Okay, so think of it like this, kind of like Russian nesting dolls. AI, or artificial intelligence, is the big outer doll. That's the whole grand idea of getting machines to think and reason like us humans. Now, inside AI, you've got machine learning, or ML. That's where machines aren't just programmed, they actually learn from data. And then, the smallest, most powerful doll inside that is deep learning. This is ML on steroids, using these super complex neural networks, kind of like a digital brain, to sift through mountains of data and find patterns. You know, this whole thing didn't just pop up overnight. I mean, the term artificial intelligence was actually coined way back in 1956. For a long time, it was mostly just stuff you'd see in sci-fi movies. But then, things started to speed up. IBM's Deep Blue beat a chess grandmaster in '97. Then their Watson computer crushed it on Jeopardy in 2011. And then bam, 2022 hits and ChatGPT gets 100 million users in just 2 months. That's not just progress, that's an explosion. So if AI and its crew are the brains, what's the muscle? Well, that's automation. This is the robot army on the ground, the ones actually doing the stuff. They're zipping around warehouses, grabbing packages, doing all the boring, repetitive tasks over and over again without getting tired. It's an incredible partnership, really. It lets the humans step back and focus on the bigger picture, strategy, creative problem solving, the stuff we're good at.
Okay, so now that we know the players, let's see how this all came together to completely flip the modern warehouse on its head. We'll look at the big moments that brought us to where we are today.
Believe it or not, this whole journey started with something we all take for granted now, the barcode scanner, back in the early 2000s. That alone was a huge deal, a massive leap from just piles of paper. Then, around 2010, the first real robot coworkers started showing up, these things called AGVs. Fast forward just a few years to 2014, and suddenly AI is smart enough to predict when you're about to run out of stock. And now, by 2023, it's totally normal to see fully autonomous robots and even drones buzzing around. I mean, the speed of this evolution is just mind-blowing. So what's the big deal? How does all this fancy tech actually make things more efficient? Well, first off, you've got speed and accuracy. Robots don't need coffee breaks, they don't get tired, and they work 24/7 with way fewer mistakes. Then the AI brain crunches all the data to optimize everything, from finding the fastest delivery routes to making sure shelves are never empty. And maybe the most important part, it changes the game for the human workforce. All that repetitive stuff gets automated, freeing people up to do the really important creative work. And look, this isn't just a cool idea on paper. The numbers in the real world are staggering. Let's take Amazon, for example. Their warehouses packed with robots, they process orders a whopping 20% faster. That's a huge difference. And it's not just Amazon. Check out DHL, another absolute giant in logistics. They saw a productivity boost of up to 30% when they brought in AI robotics. We're not talking about tiny improvements here. These are game-changing numbers that prove how massive this shift really is.
Now, this revolution is happening all over the globe, and this is super interesting, it doesn't look the same everywhere. When you look at how different countries are adopting AI, it's really a tale of two very different worlds.
Okay, so on one hand, you have developed nations like the US, countries in the EU, or Japan. For them, it's all about fine-tuning and optimization. They're using AI to shave a few seconds off a delivery, to perfect that last mile. It's about making a great system even better. But then you look at developing nations in places like Africa and South Asia, and the story is completely different. They're not just optimizing, they're leapfrogging. They're using things like cloud AI and mobile tools to bypass old, broken infrastructure entirely. It's a way to bridge massive gaps and build a modern supply chain from the ground up.
But, progress like this is never a simple, happy story. It's always more complicated. For all the amazing benefits, this robot revolution is a real double-edged sword. It brings up some really tough challenges and questions that we absolutely have to talk about.
So that really begs the question, right? What are the trade-offs here? All this incredible power and efficiency, what's the catch? Let's break it all down.
On the bright side, the business case is pretty clear. You've got massive cost savings, insane speed and accuracy, and of course, happier customers who get their stuff faster. But then you flip the coin, the challenges are just as big. We're talking about a huge upfront cost to get this tech, very real fears about what happens to people's jobs, and a whole can of worms when it comes to data privacy and potential bias.
And this is where we get into the really thorny ethical dilemmas. First, data privacy. With all this information being collected, how do we make sure it's safe? Then there's algorithmic bias. What if the AI learns from bad data and starts making unfair decisions? And then the big one, the one that affects real people, job security. What happens to the warehouse worker whose role is now done by a robot? These are not simple problems with easy answers.
So, with all that on the table, the good, the bad, and the complicated, where do we go from here? What's next for logistics? Let's take a peek into the future and talk about how to navigate it. Okay, get ready for this because some of the predictions are straight out of science fiction. Experts think we could see fleets of autonomous, self-driving trucks becoming a normal thing by 2030. In just the next 5 years, the robots in warehouses are going to get way, way smarter. And here's the wild one. Pretty soon, AI might get so good at predicting what we like that it'll know what you want to buy, maybe even before you do.
So if you're a business, how do you even begin to deal with all this? Well, the advice from experts boils down to a few key steps. First, don't try to do everything at once. Start small. Run some pilot projects, see what works. Second, you can't do it alone. You've got to collaborate with tech providers and even with governments. Third, and this is maybe the most important, focus on your people. Upskill your workforce for the new kinds of jobs that will be created. And always, always remember the golden rule of AI. Garbage data in, garbage results out.
So when you think about it, from smart algorithms that predict what we'll buy to the robots that pick and pack those orders, this tech is rewriting the entire rulebook of how we buy and sell things. The big question really isn't if our warehouses are going to get smarter. They already are. The real question is how we are going to adapt. How do we navigate a world where the journey a package takes is just as intelligent as the device inside it? So yeah, keep your eyes peeled and your gears turning, because this tech revolution is just getting started.